Hey cuties, and welcome to the first segment of a really exciting series that I'm starting called Shoujo Stereotypes and Beyond. I'm really super excited to talk about girls, talk about their love interests, talk about the weird scenarios that they go in, and I'm super duper excited to talk about the series that we love, all about love, that could possibly have subplots about other things, but more importantly, it's all about love. And now, without further ado, let's start our trope hunt. So the first topic I want to talk about is love interests. Not just because they're unique and there's a whole bunch of different types, but because I find the heroines kind of a little boring at times and I really am just excited to get into character. And now we begin with one of my favorite tropes. The bad boy. Popular in most romantic settings, from novels to movies to TV, anywhere, the bad boy is always the character that all the good girls want. He's usually smoking cigarettes, riding a motorcycle, normally doesn't care about anything or anyone, and just kind of does what he wants. But today we're going to be talking about the shoujo bad boy. These are the ones with a heart of gold. Usually the boys that sit there and dream about their dream girl and probably pick flowers in their spare time, but they're too cool and they want to fit in with their friends so they don't let them know. These boys usually do ride motorcycles and usually have a giant gang of fangirls, as any trope in any series of shoujo period, there's always some fangirl base. But they usually are the ones who show their affections by insulting the protagonist. Hey, meatball head. What's up, giraffe neck? What's up, dumpling chin? Yeah, more than half of the time they have to do with food. I have a theory that they're usually just hungry. Or they have to do with their dogs. They're like, oh man, you remind me of my dog or my cat. You're so cute. Now, as I mentioned earlier, most of the time the bad boys do have a heart of gold. But there are times when they don't actually. There's two different main types. There's the type of boy who bullies a girl, but isn't too mean about it. He just kind of calls her nicknames and calls her stupid all the time. Baka. Or there's the type of guy who's kind of on the side of abusive, and we kind of stay clear of that, and they're usually super rich and is like, I have all the money and I can do whatever I want because my parents don't normally care, so I'm gonna buy you and you're gonna do whatever I want. The worst part is when a prince does it, everyone's like, oh no, he's such a great guy, he can't possibly. I mean, there's still manipulation there, but when a bad guy does it, everybody knows he's a bad boy. Like, everyone knows, oh, this is totally his thing. He totally plays around with girls and doesn't really do much about it. Granted, there is this part of culture in Japan that women can't exactly say no to a lot of different situations, so that plays a lot in shoujo. But we're not here to focus on the negative. We're here to focus on the positive, why you should read shoujo and why bad boys are most beloved. Some great examples of some bad boys, and some series that I definitely recommend, is definitely Moekare. It deals with twins, and there's one bad boy and one good guy. Well, I don't want to say good guy. He's more like a prince, and she falls in love with the prince and his awesome brother who's a bad boy, but who only teases her a little bit. Granted, she doesn't get treated very well the whole thing, but it's beside the point. He's got a heart of gold, and he treats her right, and it's awesome. Granted, he does have a fan base, but that's totally okay. Another example of a great series is Natsume from Gakuin Alice. Now, while the series focuses a lot more on the fantasy elements, he definitely uses the trope bad boy quite a bit. He's like 12, and everybody in the school is like slightly scared of him. I mean, granted, he uses fire, but literally everyone in the school was like, oh, don't mess with him. He's 12. I teach 12-year-olds. It's weird. But he does treat our protagonist with a lot of love and a lot of care. He doesn't exactly know how to show his emotions. A lot of times, like a lot of different bad boys, they're not entirely sure how to be emotional, and they've had so much trauma. The only way they know how to show affection is to treat everyone like crap. Woo! Single ladies. But a lot of times they're not sure how to convey their emotions. In the end, Natsume is a great guy, and he does treat our protagonist really well. It's the same with the guy in Devil Beside Me. Oh my gosh, please read that series because it's a great example of why a bad boy can be a good guy and shouldn't always be hated. On the contrary side to this, there's a series that really kind of exemplifies why the bad boy isn't always the greatest guy to go with. He treats her like crap through the beginning, not a lot of people like him, or everybody knows he's kind of rich, and even her parents kind of ignore the fact that he's a jackbutt and let her date him anyway. The series I mainly want to talk about is Hot Gimmick. Now, is he necessarily your motorcycle riding, ear-pierced type of bad boy? Not at all. But I think he fits more the bad boy stereotypes in that everybody's kind of scared at him. In the beginning of the series, he kind of bullies his way into her heart in the fact that he kind of makes her his slave after buying a pregnancy test for her sister. I mean, I get it, it's a bigger thing in Japan for a high schooler to be pregnant, but he definitely frames her with that, and the whole series just kind of is a jerk. Her older brother, who's a total sweetie throughout the whole entire series and loves her and does everything for her, doesn't end up with the girl because this guy basically bullies her. It's like Stockholm Syndrome. Now, this is only one example, and please don't be dissuaded from shoujo or the bad boy trope. As I listed earlier, there really are a ton of series where there's the bad boy, but he's not necessarily a bad boy. He usually has some tragic past that he's trying to escape, and she's the only girl who seems to notice the real him. It's a little dramatic at times, but he usually cares for her, and more than half the time he treats her better than the prince character does, or the teacher character, or the Shoujo, or any other character for that matter. Now, he has earrings, he has a fan club, he smokes cigarettes, he does whatever the hell he wants, but this bad boy will definitely steal your heart. Now, one of the most ridiculous things, as I mentioned earlier, is that the bad boys are usually come from a very wealthy family. Half the time, they're living in apartments by themselves, which is kind of weird. They run away from their family. Nobody really knows they come from a rich family, but they've turned to this delinquent streak because mom and dad just don't understand. And why? Because teen angst. Meh. The bad boys are only one type of guy that the protagonist tends to date. Trust me when I say there's a bunch of different guys you can date. Hello, reverse harems. Woohoo! But the bad boys of the prince are usually the main two that you'll see in shoujo. So just remember, next time you hear a guy in a leather jacket calling you thick, he's probably internally screaming, "Oh God, this woman, this beautiful goddess. No one has understood me ever before because I have such a complicated and sad backstory where one or more of my parents are dead and I come from a rich family. No one understands. Not my mom, not my dad, not my older brother who conveniently comes later in the series to come take my girl, but I steal her back because I'm awesome like that. If only I could tell her she's beautiful. You think she knows she's beautiful? Nah, I'm going to deprive her confidence a little bit more." Or something like that. The point is, bad boys are awesome, you're awesome, shoujo's awesome, everything's awesome. Well, that's it for this week of Shoujo Stereotypes and Beyond. And I hope you stay tuned for next week, where we tackle one of my kind of favorites, it's okay, more ridiculous trope, the prince. Stay cute, YouTube, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Wink.